Hey everyone, welcome back. Today, we're uncovering some jaw-dropping Roosevelt dime coins that have sold for thousands. These aren't your everyday dimes. Mistakes in minting and unique features make them highly sought after by collectors. Stick with us to find out if you might have one of these rare treasures hiding in your collection. The Roosevelt dime, minted by the United States since 1946, features the likeness of President Franklin D. Roosevelt on the obverse and a torch, olive branch, and oak branch on the reverse, symbolizing liberty, peace, and strength. The coin has a rich history, but today, we'll be focusing on 5 rare and valuable Roosevelt dimes that have left collectors and investors in awe. Our first coin on the list is the 1965 no-mint mark dime. Now, you might be wondering, why is a dime from 1965 worth so much? Well, let me tell you, there's a pretty interesting story behind it. In 1965, the United States made a big decision to stop minting coins with mint marks, the tiny letters like D for Denver or S for San Francisco that tell you where the coin was produced. Instead of including these mint marks, the government opted for coins without them. However, when they were minting the dimes that year, something unusual happened. While most of the 1965 dimes were produced without any mint mark at all, a small number were actually struck with the mint mark missing. And that's where the rare error occurs. Now, I know what you're thinking, it's just a missing mint mark, what's the big deal? But here's the thing, this wasn't just a mistake. It turned out that these missing mint mark dimes became one of the most sought-after errors in the coin collecting world. That tiny oversight has made this coin incredibly valuable to collectors who know its significance. Let's break it down a little further. In the mid-1960s the U.S. Mint was undergoing some changes. They were making adjustments to the way coins were produced and were trying to keep up with rising production demands. The decision to remove mint marks from coins that year was part of a larger effort to streamline coin production and reduce costs. But in the process some coins like this 1965 dime were struck without any mint marks, and this mistake was completely unintended. It wasn't until later that collectors and numismatists, that's coin experts, began to realize how rare these mintless dimes were. While most 1965 dimes are pretty ordinary, the ones without mint marks stand out like a diamond in the rough. As word spread among collectors the demand for these coins grew and so did their value. Here's where things get really exciting. If you happen to find one of these 1965 no-mint mark dimes you could be looking at a potential goldmine. Some of these rare dimes have been known to sell for as much as $13,200 at auction depending on their condition. The higher the quality, meaning how well the coin has been preserved, the more valuable it becomes. If you find one in near-perfect condition you're sitting on a true collector's gem. But here's the kicker, not all 1965 dimes are valuable. Only those that are missing the mint mark are worth the big bucks. So while many people might have a handful of 1965 dimes lying around in their collections, only the ones without the mint mark have that rare valuable trait. The combination of the transitional nature of 1965, when mint marks were removed, and the error of missing the mint mark has made this coin highly coveted. Coin collectors love a good story, and this one's got all the right elements, a mistake, a bit of history, and some real monetary value. So, next time you're going through your change or checking your coin collection, keep an eye out for a 1965 dime. It could be more than just pocket change, it might just be worth a small fortune. And while it's always exciting to find one of these rare dimes, it's also important to remember that finding them isn't easy. It's not like these coins are popping up every day. If you happen to have one in your collection or come across one in circulation, consider getting it appraised to find out just how much it could be worth. You might be surprised at the potential value of a coin that many people would overlook. Next up, we have another, no-mint mark, dime, the 1972 Roosevelt dime. Now, you may be asking, why is this dime worth so much? Well, let me walk you through it. This particular dime is worth an estimated $12,000, but only if you find it in good condition. So, what makes the 1972 Roosevelt dime so special? The story behind it is similar to the 1965 no-mint mark dime, but there are some key differences that make this era particularly fascinating. Just like the 1965 dimes, some 1972 dimes were mistakenly struck without any mint mark. However, unlike the 1965 version, the error in the 1972 dime happened during a shift in the production process at the U.S. Mint. At the time, the Mint was going through a period of transition in terms of its minting methods and procedures, which led to some issues with the coin production process. This transition period meant that, in some cases, the mint mark, whether D for Denver or S for San Francisco, was unintentionally left off certain dimes. This wasn't a widespread issue, though. Not all 1972 dimes were affected, which is what makes finding one of these error coins such a rare and exciting discovery. Now, let's break it down further. The U.S. Mint has to maintain precise control over how coins are struck, including making sure that mint marks are properly applied. Mint marks serve as an indication of where the coin was minted, and they're an important part of the coin's history. In 1972, the Mint had a large number of dimes being struck, but during the transition, some dimes were minted without the D or S, making them stand out from the rest. This minting error created a coin that's highly coveted by collectors today. If you happen to stumble upon a 1972 Roosevelt dime that's missing its mint mark, you could be looking at a coin that's worth around $12,000, depending on its condition. And trust me, finding one of these is a rare occurrence. In fact, because not every 1972 dime was affected by this error, the number of no mint mark dimes in circulation is very limited, which is what drives their value up. Now, imagine you've got one of these rare dimes sitting in your collection, or maybe you find one in your pocket change. That could be a major find. It's always worth checking the condition of your coins carefully because, when it comes to rare minting errors, condition is key. A well-preserved 1972 no mint mark dime can bring in a serious amount of money at auction. Collectors always have an eye out for these kinds of errors because they offer something unique, a glimpse into a moment in history when the Mint was making changes to its operations. Coins like these are much more than just money, they're part of the story of how U.S. coinage evolved over time. So, if you happen to have a 1972 Roosevelt dime lying around or you spot one at a coin shop, take a closer look. If it's missing the mint mark, you may just have a rare treasure on your hands, one that could potentially be worth a small fortune. Just remember, finding one of these dimes in good condition is no easy task. But if you do happen to find one, it'll certainly be a moment worth celebrating. Now, let's move on to the 1979 D mint mark dime. You might be asking, why is a 1979 D dime worth so much? Well, the answer lies in its rarity, specifically, its rarity in mint condition. If you're lucky enough to find one of these dimes in excellent condition, you could be looking at a coin that's worth around $10,000. So, what makes this dime so special? The 1979 D Roosevelt dime is rare because it was part of a specific batch of coins that had a unique combination of error and scarcity. But here's the thing, this isn't an error coin in the way that the 1965 or 1972 dimes are. It wasn't missing a mint mark or struck with a doubled die. Instead, the rarity of the 1979 D dime comes from its production details and the fact that only a small number of these coins were struck with slight imperfections that make them stand out. Now, these imperfections aren't necessarily huge or immediately obvious to the untrained eye. But for seasoned collectors, they're noticeable enough to distinguish this batch from others minted that year. The key to understanding the value of this coin lies in these small, subtle differences. It wasn't a large production error, like some of the other dimes we've talked about, but the fact that only a few 1979 D dimes exhibit these minor imperfections makes them highly desirable. You see, when a coin is struck, it's supposed to meet certain standards of quality. But sometimes, due to wear and tear on the dies used to mint the coins or other small issues in the production process, some coins are struck with slight flaws. This is especially true in large-scale operations, like the one that took place in 1979. A limited number of dimes from this year were struck with small but notable imperfections, such as misalignments or minor die cracks, that give them an unusual and distinct appearance. And that's where the value comes in. While most 1979D dimes are pretty standard, those few that were produced with these slight imperfections are far rarer. For collectors, these small flaws add to the charm of the coin, making it a sought-after piece for anyone looking to complete their collection. In other words, even though the imperfections are subtle, they give the coin a uniqueness that's hard to find elsewhere. The rarity of these coins, combined with their relatively high-quality preservation, is what drives up their value. The 1979D mint mark dime isn't just another dime, it's a special piece that tells a bit of the story of coin production during that year. There weren't a lot of these unique dimes made, and they're getting harder and harder to find in good condition. In fact, if you manage to get your hands on one of these dimes, you could be sitting on a potential treasure. The reason why these coins are so highly coveted by collectors is because they don't just represent monetary value, they're a snapshot of history, a rare moment in time when an unusual batch of dimes was minted. Coins like this are perfect for serious numismatists who love to chase after rare varieties, especially those with a bit of a backstory. So, next time you come across a 1979D dime, be sure to give it a careful look. If you find one of these rare versions with the subtle imperfections, you could be holding a coin worth a pretty penny. Up next, we have the 1980D mint mark dime. Now, while this coin might not be as expensive as the 1965 or 1972 era dimes, it's still worth a pretty penny, around $5,000 if you can find one in good condition. You might be wondering, why is this dime so valuable? Well, let's break it down. The reason behind its high value lies in a minting problem that occurred that year. Some of the 1980 dimes were struck with improper metal composition and slight strikes. These were not major errors, like the missing mint mark or double dies we've seen in other years, but the flaws were just enough to make certain dimes stand out from the regular batch minted that year. When you combine these imperfections with the fact that they're rare, you get a coin that's both interesting and valuable to collectors. So, what exactly was the issue with the 1980 dimes? Well, during the minting process, the U.S. Mint uses a specific type of metal to create coins. Dimes are typically made with a mixture of copper and nickel, and the mint must ensure that the composition is just right for each coin. In the case of the 1980 dimes, some of the coins were struck with improper metal mixtures, which led to slight differences in the way the coins looked and felt. This could mean that some dimes had a slightly off color, or they might have felt lighter or heavier than normal. In addition to the metal composition issues, there were also some slight problems with the striking process. The coins weren't struck as sharply as most others from that year. These subtle imperfections didn't affect the overall design of the coin, but they were enough to catch the eye of collectors who appreciate the uniqueness of these variety coins. In the coin world, a variety coin refers to a coin that was produced with a characteristic that makes it different from the standard version, like a slight die crack, a misalignment, or in this case, improper metal composition or strikes. Now, these kinds of errors may seem small, but they're valuable because they are so rare. The 1980D mint mark dime is part of a small batch of coins that were affected by these issues. Only a limited number of these dimes were produced with the specific imperfections, which is what makes them so sought after by collectors. While most 1980 dimes are just standard coins, the ones with these subtle flaws are special, and collectors are willing to pay a premium for them. Collectors, especially those focused on rarities, are always on the lookout for coins with unique characteristics, no matter how subtle. That's why the 1980D mint mark dime continues to fetch impressive prices. The value of these coins lies not just in the metal they're made from or their design, but also in the story behind them. These coins are reminders of a small error during the minting process that resulted in something rare and unique, making them a coveted piece for anyone serious about collecting. So, while the 1980D mint mark dime might not be the most famous or the most valuable error dime out there, it's still an important find for any collector. If you manage to find one, you could have a rare gem in your collection that could fetch up to $5,000 at auction, especially if it's in top-notch condition. Last but certainly not least, we have the 1989D mint mark dime. This particular coin is worth around $7,500, and it's part of a very specific error batch that makes it highly desirable to collectors. The error that makes this dime so special happened and the die wasn't properly aligned during the minting process, resulting in the mint mark appearing doubled on some of the coins. Now, let's talk about why this makes the 1989D mint mark dime so valuable. This kind of mistake is what coin collectors call a doubled die error. If you're not familiar with the term, a double die error occurs when a coin is struck by a die that has shifted slightly during the minting process. This can cause the image, including the mint mark, to appear doubled or ghosted, giving the coin a distinct and rare appearance. The 1989D dime with this double die error is one of the most sought-after varieties in the Roosevelt dime series because the mint mark is clearly doubled, making it stand out from other dimes produced that year. The 1989D doubled mint mark is a rare find, and the condition of the coin plays a huge role in how much it can be worth. If you find one in near-perfect condition, it could fetch anywhere from $7,000 to $7,500, or even more, at auction. This is one of those coins that collectors are always on the lookout for, because it's both unique and historically significant within the Roosevelt dime series. As you can imagine, collectors love these kinds of quirks, and that's exactly what makes this coin so special. A simple mistake with the die has resulted in a coin that commands a hefty price due to its rarity and distinct characteristics. What's especially interesting about the 1989D doubled mint mark dimes is that they're part of a limited batch of coins that were struck with the error. Not every 1989D dime from that year was affected, which is why the ones that do have the doubled mint mark are highly prized by numismatists. The coin's value isn't just about the mistake itself, but the rarity of finding one in good condition with the doubled mint mark clearly visible. So, how can you spot a 1989D doubled mint mark dime? Look closely at the mint mark on the coin. If it appears to be doubled or has a blurry, shadow-like effect next to it, then you've likely found one of these rare error coins. It's a subtle difference, but for a seasoned coin collector, it's easy to spot. For those who manage to find a 1989D doubled mint mark dime, it's an exciting moment. Not only does it represent a rare error, but it's also a piece of history that reflects how even the smallest production flaws can result in highly valuable coins. If you happen to have one of these in your collection or come across one in your coin hunting adventures, hold on to it tight because it could very well be worth a significant sum at auction. With its rarity, unique error, and collector demand, the 1989D mint mark dime is truly a gem in the Roosevelt dime series. So, there you have it, folks. The top 5 most expensive and ultra-rare Roosevelt dime coins that are worth big money. Whether it's the no mint mark errors, the unique varieties, or those rare double mint marks, these coins are treasures in the world of numismatics. If you've got any of these in your collection, don't let them slip away. Who knows, you might be sitting on a goldmine. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell for more coin tips and tricks. Until next time, happy collecting.